Am I the a-hole for laughing when my wife fell and pooped her pants because I thought it was a prank? I 33M think my wife 31F is genuinely funny, but her love of pranks and toilet humor can be a bit much. One day, I was in the living room. My wife ran in holding her tummy. She slipped and fell. Then she said something like, "Crap, I pooped my pants." Everything about it seemed like a prank she would do. From the double meaning phrase, to the toilet humor, to the physical comedy. Despite the fact that I dislike most of her pranks, I found this one funny. But it wasn't pranking when I realized I tried to help her up. She told me not to touch her. She sarcastically called me husband of the year for laughing at her. I explained, but she said I should have known it wasn't a prank because she did a similar one before and she doesn't repeat the same pranks. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This is what fruit is born of frequent pranks. And as a good partner, you were engaging and supporting her antics. When you realized it was real, you immediately went to help. She's probably mad at herself because she knows you laughing was essentially her own doing. Next story. Am I the a-hole for correcting my mother-in-law at a family gathering that she didn't recommend my daughter's name? It was my favorite name? I've been married to my husband for almost 2 years and our daughter is 11 months old. When we found out we were having a girl, one of the names that was immediately top contender was the name of a character I really like in a very popular book/movie franchise. My husband is a huge fan of the franchise too, and with time that name just became the only one that I wanted, and we landed on it and then told our parents about it. I remember my mother-in-law questioning whether phonetically there would be an alternative spelling that could cause confusion. And I had said no, it wouldn't, and had explained to her the subtle difference in pronunciation, and it was a whole conversation I'd had with her. Last weekend, we were at my in-laws' place for a dinner. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law were there too. So we were watching my daughter cruising along the room, using the couches as support and looking at us to see if we were looking and then laughing. My Bill's wife had remarked how radiant she looked and how she'd really taken to her name literally. My sister-in-law then said that it was a really good choice by my mother-in-law. I was confused. I asked what she's talking about, and my sister-in-law said that my mother-in-law had been the one to recommend the name, right? My mother-in-law then said, yeah, that she'd said it's a good name. I was literally stunned for a second and then made it clear that I'd come up with the name, how I'd known of it, and that my husband also knew of that character and that we were dead set on the name. There were no recommendations to be had. I asked my husband to corroborate the story, which he did, uncomfortably. My mother-in-law said names are a collective family effort, and everyone pitched in, but I still said this name was one that was very dear to me, and it was one I'd come up with. Maybe I shouldn't have pushed on that a second time? That's why I'm here. When we came home and were in bed, my husband had been getting texts from his mom and sister. He said I was right in my account of what had happened, but he also told me I'd been tactless, that we know it was my name, and our daughter has a beautiful name that suits her. Why make it into something that causes bitterness? And today, he had a phone call with his mom, just a regular one. I asked if she was still pissed. He said she was. He said that he understood why I did it, but it wasn't the time and place. Was I the a-hole? Update. My husband came by this on his Reddit feed FML. He wants to let us all know he never said I was an a-hole. Opie replies, no, he didn't say it, but he said it shouldn't have been clarified in front of an audience, so I'm assuming he meant when it was just me with mother-in-law. And if she'd said this when we've had moments where it's just the two of us, I would have corrected her then. I didn't enjoy saying it in front of others. It's just that's when it was brought up. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not paying for a wedding I'm not attending? I 30F started a relationship with Joe 31 meters in the middle of May of this year. Shortly after we started going out, he asked me to be a +1 to his friend Meg's wedding. I have never met Meg, but I agreed to go. We RSVP'd and Joe booked plane tickets and a hotel room. A couple days ago, I ended the relationship with Joe. It's important to note that while money was not the main reason for the breakup, it was one of the things we argued about most. I am very frugal, perhaps to a fault, and Joe likes to spend money on creature comforts and trips, and often expects me to do the same. Joe lives at home rent-free, while I have my own apartment. I live pretty much paycheck to paycheck with a small stash set aside in savings. There's still about 5 weeks left to the wedding. I ended the relationship when I did, partly because I didn't want to be in the pictures from the wedding and cause people to feel bad when they looked back at those pictures. I am returning everything Joe left in my apartment, save a few things he was okay with me keeping. I also offered to pay for my plane ticket and my half of the hotel stay as a good faith gesture. It comes to over $400, which is just about everything I have in savings. Today, Joe contacted me and asked if I could pay another $125 on top of all of that to offset Meg's cost for my plate and everything at the reception. He says it's so close to the wedding, and since deposits have gone to vendors, I should pay my portion. I think that more than a month's notice is ample time for Meg to either fill the seat or for Joe to find another plus one, who would also be benefiting from my paying half of the hotel stay. I also think that since I wouldn't pay that money if I was attending, then I shouldn't have to pay now that I'm not. It's my understanding that people not going to weddings after they RSVP is just one of those costs that's inevitable, and I'm at least doing Meg the courtesy of giving over a month's notice. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You should pay for the cost of your flight and nothing more. This fellow will still need the hotel room, and the bride and groom absolutely can remove you from the count. Not the a-hole. Joe's scamming you. I got married last year and vendors required a final tally like 2 or 3 weeks in advance, not more than a month out. If Joe is truly worried about offsetting Meg's costs, he'll let her know that you're not coming and she'll just adjust her spreadsheets. No big deal. You dated this man for all of 12 minutes. When he decided to invite a brand new girlfriend to a wedding, he knew that he was taking a chance that it would not work out. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my brother come over to my apartment? I, 20F, have a low-functioning autistic brother, 7M. He is nonverbal and does not use the toilet. Instead, he tries to do his business on people's chairs and couches for whatever reason. Because of this, I don't let him come over to the apartment anymore. This all happened after one day, my parents dropped him off for me to babysit him. No biggie. I love my brother. Well, 2 hours in, he decided to pull down his pants and peed all over my new, expensive couch. I caught him halfway through his leakage and dragged him away from the couch, sat him on the toilet, and made him sit there for a few minutes. This ended up with him having a meltdown of epic proportions, one so bad I had to call my parents. After that, I decided I would no longer allow him to come over. I've dealt with the couch piss for months since this behavior started and would always redirect him to the toilet. Now that he ruined a piece of furniture I actually saved up for and care about, I can't keep dealing with this anymore. My parents are mad that he isn't allowed at my apartment anymore and are calling me selfish over it. Am I truly the a-hole here? Not the a-hole, and if they need you to babysit, do it at their house. Problem solved. Not the a-hole. He obviously needs 24/7 supervision. Also, your parents could buy clothing that can't be pulled down like that. There's literally ONSI-type things that are crazy hard to take off specifically for people with needs like this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for entering my coworker's office after he told me not to? I've been working in this office for 3 months, but because of space shortages, I currently share it with a coworker who just started last week. Even though he's new, he's technically my supervisor. Today, I was told I could leave early because I'd finished all my work. I stepped out for about 5 minutes to see if anyone else needed help, but nobody did. When I came back, there was a "Please do not disturb" sign on the door. Usually that means there's a meeting or conversation going on, and they can last close to an hour. The problem was my bag with my wallet, water, and food was still in there. I didn't want to wait almost an hour to get it, so I asked another coworker for advice. She suggested knocking. I waited another 5 minutes, then knocked. He said, "Not right now." I knocked again to show I wasn't there for chit-chat, but because I actually needed something. Still, "Not right now." So I opened the door just enough to explain that I needed to grab my bag. It was literally 1 step inside. He immediately snapped, "I told you no," in a raised voice, and basically kicked me back out. I shut the door and left, but I was so shaken I ended up crying in the bathroom. When his meeting was finally over, I went back in to collect my things. I was still upset, and he told me I had no right to be pissed. I said I only wanted my bag and that I have the right to access my own belongings. I suggested that if he's planning a meeting in our shared office, he could at least let me know so I can grab my stuff beforehand. He said he doesn't see it that way and doesn't need to tell me anything, and he kept pushing the point. At that stage, I was trying not to cry again, so I told him it's harder for me because I'm autistic. The second I said that, his tone changed. He softened and said he didn't know, and now it was fine. But it really bothered me that I had to disclose something so personal just to get basic understanding. Now I'm worried this could hurt my reputation. He's well liked, and I'm scared it'll get spun as me causing drama, especially since I've been socially excluded before because of my autism. Until now, this was the first workplace where I felt genuinely safe and included, and I'd even considered staying long-term. Now, I'm not so sure. So, am I the a-hole for going in after he told me not to? Not the a-hole, but he is one. Talk to HR because autistic or not, it's a shared space. I would have walked in despite the sign and quietly gathered my things. Are you hourly? If he locked you out and you can't leave, then he has to pay for that time you were detained by his holier-than-thou attitude. Not the a-hole. When you share an office, you are allowed to enter and exit as you see fit. If he had a meeting that couldn't be disturbed, he should have either notified you in advance or had the meeting elsewhere. Next story. Am I the a-hole for getting my colleague in trouble for calling me his work wife? Some time ago, I-29F was assigned by my European-based employer to work on a project at our US location. Part of my assignment was training a new hire within my special area of expertise. This new guy is about 10 years older than me and hired for a management position. However, he is in no way my superior as I take on more of a consulting role with the local team. I noticed straight away that he is very outgoing and sociable, joking around a lot with his colleagues. Quite different from the men I am used to as I come from a Northeast European country where the male stereotype can only be described as silent. He immediately took an interest in me and started jokingly flirting and complimenting my looks. This made me uncomfortable since we are both married, and I felt it was very inappropriate. It also made me feel as if he did not respect me professionally when comments like, "You look so cute when you're serious," would interrupt my training sessions with him. The assignment itself was a big deal to me, and I wanted nothing more than to exceed expectations, which is why I was reluctant to bring this up and create drama. I tried ignoring his behavior, but the last straw for me was when he started calling me his work wife openly in the office. I understand that this term is used in a joking manner in US office culture, but we absolutely do not have anything similar in my home country, and if word would get around back home about this, I would have to explain to my husband why some random man decided to call me his wife. To avoid this, I decided I need to put an end to the casual flirting and jokes from this man. I sat him down one-on-one and told him, in short, that he has to stop calling me his work wife. He seemed like he understood, but I was maybe being too nice or vague in my approach towards him because he acted no different the following days. This made me frustrated as I felt I now have to either go to my and his boss and risk this reflecting badly on my assignment or risk conflict in my marriage. I ultimately decided that my marriage is more important than my job and told my boss about my issue. Luckily, my boss took me seriously and told me that he would handle it and to stop worrying about it. I am not sure what went down after this, but the flirting and the compliments from my colleague abruptly stopped. I was relieved, but I also felt that my colleague acted very cold towards me after this all happened. I still successfully finished my training sessions with him and the assignment and relocated back home. Now, in retrospect, I am wondering if I overreacted due to the cultural differences between the US and my home country. Maybe what my colleague was doing was just normal social interaction and I acted like a complete a-hole getting him into trouble with our boss for mere joking? Congratulations on both completing your assignment successfully and shutting down a creep who thought he could get away with sexually harassing you. You're a hero. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You did nothing wrong. You approached this male colleague first and asked him to stop. You were uncomfortable. He did not stop. That is harassment. You did the right thing by reporting him. I bet other women he works with thank you. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, make sure like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel our posts.